And our next presentation and our next session is going to unlock innovation on the stage of Rajasthan DigiFest and the TiE Global Summit. The session is on seeing the invisible, technology beyond the obvious. Our host is Mr. Praveen Tailam, past chair, TiE Global. And our speaker is Professor of Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Professor Ramesh Raskar. I request everyone who, since we see that our visitors are very scattered, if you could come on the front seats so that we all look a little more consolidated, a little more put together. Everyone who's on the back seats, please occupy the frontal seats. And wherever the visitors can hear me, do join us for this session of seeing the invisible and technology beyond the obvious. The speaker for this session is an associate professor at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Media Lab, a director of the Camera Culture Research Group, and leader of the program on decentralized AI. His focus is on AI and imaging for health and sustainability. These interfaces span research in physical, digital, and global domains. He is an award-winning personality with awards like National Academy of Investors Award, Lemelson Award, ACM, SIGGRAPH Achievement Award, DARPA Young Faculty Award, Alfred P. Slogan Research Fellowship, TR100 Award from MIT Technology Review, and Global Indus Technovator Award. He has worked on special research projects at Google, Apple, and Facebook, and co-founded, advised several companies. He holds 100+ US patents. You do not want to miss hearing a person like that. If you want to be in business and if you want to do something in that particular field, you must understand from the best minds. So let's invite our brilliant speaker and our host on stage. Put your hands together, everyone, for Professor Ramesh Raskar and our host, Mr. Praveen Tailam. I request our host to kindly also present a memento as a warm welcome to the Rajasthan DigiFest and the 10th TiE Global Summit, hosted by TiE Rajasthan. I request Praveen sir to kindly present the memento to Professor Ramesh. Everybody put your hands together and let's brace ourselves for the brilliance that awaits us.
It's working? Yeah. So we talk about AI and AI every day. You know, we are using it for text, image generation, writing code, chatbots talk to us. It's all over. It's pretty much many facets of our life we are probably not even aware of. But also what's emerging now is the agentic AI, the agents, which are actually going to become part of our lives. With these autonomous agents, which are actually doing a lot of work, making decisions about our money, our health, and our data. So now, it's not a matter of can we build these systems. I think it's a matter of should we trust these systems and what terms. So our next speaker, Ramesh, here, he's really quite literally the man who can see around the corners. He started the Camera Culture Club at MIT, where he invented the first ever 1 trillion frames per second camera that was fast enough to watch the light travel to a bottle of water. It was a breakthrough that changed the way we look at physics and also what we understand about reality. Now, he's just not a scientist in the lab, but even on the street, he did something fascinating. He comes from Nasik. As you all know, Nasik holds this largest human congregation of Kumbh Mela every 12 years. There he came up with the year-long idea of a Kumbhathon, where he calls it the beautiful chaos, where he likes to solve problems for the millions of people for the social good. Now, that proved his belief that the most powerful and the right technology is the kind that works for everyone. Now, today's focus has shifted to AI, where we're talking about the agentic web. What does it entail? What is going on? And here comes his new project called Project Nanda. And I will have him talk about what he has done with his thing. And just to give you a big background, he has holds over 100 patents. He's a recipient of the prestigious Lemonson MIT Prize. And he's a leading voice for the future of AI agents, not just powerful, but accountable and aligned with the human values. So I would like to invite this visionary researcher and inventor, then the architect of the human-first AI future, Ramesh Raskar. Sir, to you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Praveen. Let me give a quick overview of some of these ideas, and then we can jump into a conversation. Networked AI agents in decentralized architecture, short, is Nanda, but it's also Nanda is the name of my sister. So if you think about what are AI agents and agentic web, we're moving from the mainframe era of AI, where you have everything is centralized, data, compute, talent, million-dollar salaries, nuclear power plants to power these data centers, kind of the mainframe model, to very quickly we're going to switch to the PC model, where the AI models will run on the edge. And because of that, we're also seeing other trends. We'll have intranet equivalent, where agents are running within enterprises, to the internet, where we are slowly moving, where the agents are running across organizations, and every citizen will have an agent, to the World Wide Web of agents. So the internet was about connecting machines, the World Wide Web was about connecting people, and Nanda is about connecting agents. So I want you to imagine, millions, billions, maybe trillions of AI agents that are navigating on the web, communicating, socializing, transacting on our behalf, right? That's the internet of AI agents. And we're going to go through these 3 phases of the internet very quickly. First is the foundations. Just as you move to a new city, you need a driver's license, you need a passport, you need to register yourself, get your Aadhaar card, your PAN card, and so on. That's the foundation. The next is agentic commerce. It's like when you move to a city, you have to find a job, start building your business, and so on. And then there's agentic society, where once we settle down in a city, we create universities, we create organizations like these. There are justice systems, then new religions emerge, and so on. And so agents will also go through these 3 phases very quickly. So maybe the most important slide of this presentation is remembering that there's 3 phases of agentic web: the foundations, the agentic economy, and agentic society. And each of these boxes, we'll share the slides with you, each of these boxes are multiple $1 billion of potential economic value and startup ideas that are out there. So when you think about AI agents, and the Internet of AI agents, you'll hear a lot about things like A2A from Google and MCP from Anthropic, or X.402 from Coinbase for transactions and so on. These are at a protocol level, at the syntax level, which is the bottom row. But what really matters is what happens at the system level and what happens at the collective global level. So that's where a lot of the focus for Nanda is. The second question is, okay, the Internet of AI agents is emerging. Why does it need to be open? Why does it need to be neutral? So on the left is how we see the World Wide Web today. you have open standards, and consumers and businesses can talk to other consumers and businesses in a very open manner, as opposed to closed platforms that we see today, like iOS and Android, or Facebook and Twitter. And these are all walled gardens. And you can talk to other consumers and businesses only through their gateways. And this is very constraining because it creates a lot of opacity, a lot of anxiety, a lot of disintermediation, and Global South is almost always left out of the value that's created in these platforms. So something similar could happen on the agentic web, just like on the iOS, Android, and Facebook, Twitter, which is we could run this red line where the window to keep the agentic web could be closing. We'll see very intense protocol wars and partnership wars over the next 6 months. Soon after that, we'll see a lot of platform effects take into platforms using the network effects. Anybody has more than 100 million users can start to create these walled gardens. And 6 months after that, so roughly 18 months from now, there could be monopolies or oligopolies that have complete system lock-in, dependencies that are built in, and a lot of innovation friction. And that could mean a lot of startups will crash, a lot of investors could lose their money. Again, most of the developing countries will have no major role to play in the agentic web. And it could be game over in 18 months from now. Or we could be on this green curve where we insist that everybody uses two-way open protocols, just like Aadhaar and UPI and A2A and so on. New .orgs emerge, like ICANN and DNS and Mozilla and so on. Nanda is trying to be one of that org. And then the long tail wins. All of us have our own agents. All of us can have ability to conduct commerce. It's permissionless. You don't ask permission for a particular agent store to start your business or launch your solution. Every country can innovate at their own pace, with their right kind of regulation, auditing mechanisms. And that's what will lead to pluralism. If you're a fan of Adam Smith and the Invisible Hand, the shared prosperity is going to come when the middle class is able to participate in this agent economy, and they're not simply the consumers of it. So it's also a unique moment for India, because I think as opposed to the centralization of AI and AI agents, India has already made rapid progress over the last 10 years in this. So imagine a world where every citizen has their own AI agent. Today, when we think about digital public infrastructure, we think about Aadhaar and UPI and DigiLocker and ONDC and so on. But there's a way to add this fourth element of an AI agent for every citizen. And the reason that would happen is because the agents that today run in the cloud, in the future, are going to run on the edge devices, on your phone, on your laptop, on your machine, in your office, and so on. And I know Vinit from NVIDIA is going to talk right after this. And he'll probably tell you that there's a lot of technology that's coming where you have models that are sub 10 billion parameter, sub 3 billion parameter, maybe even less than billion parameter that will run on edge devices. So this is the mission. We would love all of you to participate in how we can use Ananda framework. Thank you, Vinit. To launch 1.4 billion agents. But what would we do with it? So the very first application we're looking at is Kumbh Mela, as Praveen mentioned. The next Kumbh Mela is in Nasik, where I'm from. About 30 million people, about 3 crore people show up for 30 days, and creates about $2 billion of economic activity in 30 days. So it's a great opportunity for corporations and startups and governments to see how AI agents can completely change the experience. The infrastructure layer is great. The government does an awesome job. But when it comes to the experience of the pilgrims, that they come for what's seen on the left, that's their goal, but what they face with is the experience. Housing, food, language, payment, all these things need to be solved, and they should be solved not through apps, because you cannot be, if you're digitally not savvy, it's difficult, but through AI agents. So that's what we're working with many players, and we can see the whole slide deck on how the technology stack of this developing, how many aspects of the government are working with us, and a lot of top tech companies as well. So hopefully we'll get some time to look at that. I was at Prayagraj Kumbh in January of last year, and one of the challenges I ran into, I had a headache, and I couldn't figure out how to get, a simple medicine, because there are thousands of vendors, but I don't know which one is which. So one thing we are doing through ONDC is working with a company called My Seller Central, and they're creating agentic framework where even in an unorganized economy during Kumbh Mela, you can connect to a lot of the buyers and sellers in real time. And I believe Ketan is somewhere in the audience right here. If you can raise your hands, he's right there. So go talk to him about how they're building this ONDC-like solution with agentic web. So finally, what are we doing about it? What is Nanda doing about it? And I'll go through this very quickly, and we'll have more time during the discussion. We are already in a post-AI world. Just like in the 90s, we're already in the post-PC world. It's not about who has the most amazing model. It's a race to the bottom. The models are getting commoditized, but what we do with them is more interesting. So on the right side of this diagram is we are familiar with agentic frameworks like LangChain and Crew AI and so on. That's understood. What's on the left side of it is the stack. Just like the OSS stack of the internet, the internet stack for agents has to be built. And that's what Nanda is focusing on. And within that, we're focusing on 4 choke points, very briefly about creating the next DNS, the next certifying authorities, the next interoperability, and attestation. And my lab has been working on this at MIT for more than 10 years now. But over the last couple of years, we have laid out a very open research roadmap. You're all welcome to participate in it. We have weekly meetings, research papers coming out, and nearly all the major tech companies worldwide are already working with us on this platform. We have a book coming out on this, about how to create, the AI agent phone book, the next DNS, the next ICANN. The good news is that we're already working with the Indian government on how this could be done here. And then we also want, if you're a developer, if you're a corporate, we want you to go to nest.projectnanda.org. We're creating a universal attestation. Think of this like the first Yahoo, with the 50 links out there from the mid-90s. That's out there. Again, all of you can create your own AI agent in just 1 minute. So just go to join39.org, and there's another MIT website that I'll talk about later, and you can all create your own AI agent. It's like the Hotmail movement from the 1995, where anybody could create their own email address. Right now, we want you to anybody should be able to create their own AI agents, because if you're familiar, over time, we'll have the 1.4 billion agents here in India. Nevertheless, the agents are going to create a lot of chaos, in terms of security and safety and visibility and guardrails and orchestration and so on. So companies are spinning out of the Nanda framework. One of them is called Nasico, and they're working on agent observability, agent ops platform for agentic chaos. Also, Trasata, my friend Abhishek Mehta, they're thinking about how does data, think about companies like Databricks or Snowflake. So their company is looking at how can they use the Nanda platform, which has a specific concept called agentic passports, and they're figuring out how megabytes or terabytes of data, especially from supply chain and logistic frameworks, can be used with agentic web. So just go to projectnanda.org, and you'll see how many companies are using platforms like this. What's the 3-phase roadmap? There's a massive GitHub code base, so you should participate in that. By the way, the regional chapters, there's one in Mumbai, Pune, and Bangalore. So you should participate in that. There's a youth chapter. You can join that as well. There's also a fellows program. So if you're a developer, there's a $10,000 paid fellowship by various companies to contribute to the Nanda open source. I believe Madan Pataki is here, who talked about Gen AI. We have a partnership with Gen AI and Project Nanda to do residencies in 7 different districts in India to create AI agents for every citizen in those 7 districts. And to conclude, I think thanks to Edge AI, thanks to smaller models, we're going to see a very quick shift for agents to move from something in the cloud to the edge. And that's going to turbocharge this direction of the internet of AI agents. I think India is at inflection points where every agent, every citizen could have their own agent thanks to the DPI rails. Nevertheless, the window to keep the agentic web open is closing. very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh. So let's just jump into the real world applications. You mentioned here there could be personal agents for each one of us having our own agent. Tell us an example, a real use case, and what the time frame we could be looking at.
Yeah. So I think launching the agents is not that difficult. The question is how do you connect? It's like saying in the 80s and 90s, buying a PC is not that difficult, but how do I connect to other PCs and have a conversation with other people in the rest of the world? So the connection of the agents is more challenging than agents themselves. So as a concrete example, imagine there's Sita Bai, she's a 70-year-old woman, she's pre-diabetic, she's in Patna, and she wants to go to the Kumbh Mela in Nasik. Today we think, oh, maybe we'll just give her an app, but she's not digitally savvy to use an app. The other approach we have is like, oh, what we will do is we'll send her alerts over SMS or WhatsApp. So we have a push model, we have a pull model through apps, or we have a push model through alerts and information, but that's also overwhelming for her. So it's kind of a lose-lose on the push and the pull model when we use apps. When Sitabai uses an agent on her phone, the agent knows her profile, and it goes proactively looking for information, saying, Sitabai just picks up the phone and say, "Mujhe to jana hai Nasik Kumbh Mela ke liye June 2027 mein, main kya karu?" That's it. And all her Aadhaar, all her health information, all her agents work in a privacy-preserving way, finds all the services. All the services can send her additional information, and then Sitabai gets this very, very simplistic, very simple, but very easy agent who talks to her, saying, if you want to go in June, you might want to take this train, and so on. That's what's happening on the Sitabai side. But then behind the scenes, what's happening is the railway authorities or the housing in Nasik is all connected to millions of such people who are looking for those services. So it solves this two-sided problem without overwhelming the system, which is what we do today with apps.
Fair enough. Let's switch focus on the India side. The AI infrastructure. What do you think are India's strength when you look at how the Western world, America is looking at it, or even how China has been making these different approaches, but also they're trying to get there. What are India's strengths and weaknesses in this kind of a wartime? How should India play this?
This is the most important question because I get this question all the time. Should India follow the US model, which is very capital intensive, or should use the Chinese model, which is kind of data intensive and centralization of data? And the obvious answer is that India should come up with its own path. There are a lot of smart people. And if you look at kind of the strength and weaknesses for what India has DPI, Rails. India has a lot of talent, a really great, entrepreneurial ecosystem. On the other hand, what India may not have is, enough GPUs, enough compute, and ability to deploy a lot of capital at short notice. So if you're in a wartime, for the next 2-3 years, you would rather focus on your strength rather than overcoming your weaknesses. That's going to too long. So I think the phase one of this craziness of AI is very capital intensive. That's so be it. Countries are spending tens of billions of dollars, so be it. But the phase two is the decentralization, where countries that already have the digital rails, like UPI and Aadhaar and ONDC and DigiLocker and so on, can leapfrog very quickly. As you know, in many developed countries, even today, there is no clean, identity or payment systems. It's very, 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 very high friction. So I think an opportunity for a country like India is to jump straight to the agentic world and create a uniform layer, just like UPI and Aadhaar, that's free, open, and open protocols for the agentic web, and then allow entrepreneurs to build on top of that because it's not as capital intensive. The compute that's going into every phone, every laptop, every office machine, every on-prem compute is going to happen naturally anyway. It's not going to require billions of dollars. It's very diffused. But then the real power of the AI agents is going to come through the internet. And if you remember the 90s, we thought, yes, PCs are a massive revolution, but the internet was a much bigger revolution. And the same thing is today. Yeah, AI is a big revolution, but the internet of AI is a much bigger revolution. And that's why Sun Microsystems in late 90s said the network is the computer
Correct.
as opposed to computer. And now the network is the intelligence as opposed to one model.
Correct. So we have Shankar from NVIDIA here and who's going to go next. So do you think NVIDIA has a big role to play here on from the GPU side of things? Because you talked about edge, you're talking about our repurposing our existing GPUs and using our CPUs with the DPI and the UPI networks we have. What kind of a role can NVIDIA play or help India get to that, overcome that frontier?
I mean, answering your question slightly differently, a lot of people are talking about the AI bubble, and is it going to burst? What does it mean? And I think then the dot-com bubble wasn't really an internet bubble. It was a telecom bubble because there's an overinvestment in anticipation of the telecom needs. And right now, I wouldn't call it an AI bubble. I would call the AI infra bubble because there is potentially overinvestment or overcommitments at least in AI infra. I think the AI agentic web is here to stay. That's for sure. Do we need that much AI infra and do we need such a centralized way to think about it? Is debatable, right? And I will tell you the both sides. So some people say that the cost for training and providing inference in the cloud is going to plummet by a factor of 40 per year. Just Praveen, think about that. Factor of 40 every year, that means 1,600 times in 2 years. So no edge compute can compete with that. But on the other hand, if the cost of compute is decreasing by a factor of 1,600, how are these centralized platforms going to make any money at all? How are these cloud platforms going to make any money at all? So I think it's debatable. I think the money will not be made based on infra, but the money will be made on services. The money will be made by ecosystem that's most interconnected. So I think it's debatable whether what I call phase one, phase two. Phase one is about highly centralized infrastructure, and every user is just using cloud services. And phase two is where everything happening on the edge. I feel we are already moving to the phase two. That doesn't mean phase one is not important, and country like India should continue to invest in cloud infrastructure, more energy. But I would imagine that countries that are more ready for phase two are going to be able to really, kind of exploit this trend of agentic web.
So for the startups here, and we saw with the Aadhaar how some startups took advantage of that platform. Do you see something that will happen for the agentic AI side in India, and what should the regulatory or governments do in that regard? Do you see that happening, or do you think it should be kind of closed in some ways?
Yeah, I would say right now, literally 2026 is probably the best year for entrepreneurs to think about AI agents and agentic web. Because if you think about AI on its own, most startups could only watch this in awe from the sidelines. Because most of the businesses were so capital intensive that you have to raise tens of millions of dollars in seed, and very quickly you have to raise $50–60 million to even do anything meaningful in the AI race. But the AI agents and agentic web doesn't require that much capital, because the agents themselves are not consuming that much compute, especially if they run on the edge. And we very quickly are moving to a world where you can own AI, not rent AI, right? And I think Chinese are doing a huge favor by launching, much lower footprint models, also open source. So as you know, many of the US companies also started using the Chinese models because they're compute heavy but not GPU heavy. So this is kind of an interesting shift that's going on. And that brings the question about what does it mean to have regulation, what does it mean to have auditability, and so on. And I think it's really up to the various governments, various agencies to either self-regulate or regulate through mechanisms where I'll give you quick statistics. So ICANN, which registers all the websites in the world, there are about 330 million websites. The Indian agency for .in is called Nexi, but it regulates only 4 million of the 400 million websites. So it's a missed opportunity. So hopefully the next entity that emerges in India can say nearly 1.4 billion agents should be, not just audited, regulated, but they become safe, they're Aadhaar anchored, there's zero transaction cost, bad behavior is managed, misinformation is managed, and so on. So I think anybody can kind of move ahead of the curve, can do a much better job in this case. But again, regulating agents is going to be much more difficult than regulating websites or regulating social media, because when you have a website, you can just read it and see what's on the website. But meeting an agent is like meeting you, Praveen. If I meet you, I don't really know who you are. I have to talk to you for 5-10 minutes before I figure out who you are. And agents are going to be these extremely private entities, and you can't regulate them that easily. So it's a very interesting challenge for governments and corporates to deal with agents.
So, last question before I open up questions from the audience, if there are any. You talked about Project Nanda and the companies coming out of that. Couple of companies, you like the direction you're going or the opportunities they're looking at just to see if there is a good fit in those kind of models in India?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I should say that, it feels like 1995. A lot of people are saying that. This feels like 1995, where almost any industry, any idea that you had in the real world could be mapped to the internet. That's why you had Hotmail for email, you had AOL for classifieds, you had eBay and Amazon for commerce. All these entities emerged in around 95 to 97 zone. That's what's going on right now. You can take almost any idea and map it to the agentic web. Nevertheless, the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 is like, phase 1 is more infra, phase 2 is more commerce. There are many companies already emerging in that space. So Nasico is one of the companies that I'm involved in, and they're thinking about, what's the HR for these agents? All the agentic chaos that's coming up, and they have raised a lot of money. I mentioned Ketan from MySeller Central is looking at the ONDC plus AI agents. So they're working very closely with ONDC. I believe they have plenty of revenue already from ONDC, and they're agentify a lot of the ONDC's operations. As you know, ONDC is about creating an open network for digital commerce. So some amazing companies are coming out of this. Go to our website. We have a venture forum at projectnanda.org. Pitch your ideas. Investors are calling me now, saying, Ramesh, what are some good ideas we should be investing in this as well? So it's a very exciting time.
There you go. You heard from him. I think we may have maybe a minute or two. If anyone has a question for Ramesh, please speak up. I don't know if there's a microphone out there. I doubt it. Just shout.
Just shout out. Go for it. Yes. I got it. The question was, a lot of startups are building wrappers, and should we discourage them or encourage them? I think there's no shame in building a wrapper. I mean, as you know, Arvind from Perplexity was famously trolled for saying, hey, Perplexity is just a wrapper. In fact, most of the good companies out there that are above the foundational stacks are some kind of an orchestration platform. And I would say the future actually belongs to orchestration companies. And the model companies are actually getting highly commoditized. But orchestration only allows you to orchestrate what the user, anticipate what the user wants. The difference with agentic workflows is that you don't know in advance what the user wants, and you are creating agentic workflows on the fly. I think that's where the excitement is. And when you think about agentic workflows, that's about, for single users, what can you do? But when you think about agentic web, it's like if you're familiar with mixture of experts, the experts are still running on the same machine. But in the agentic web, the experts are running in different places. I have a health expert, I have a e-commerce expert, and I have a legal expert, and they're being done by different organizations, and I'm going to create a mixture of experts and a team out of them on the fly, and that's my wrapper, that's my orchestration. And then whoever solves those orchestration problems is like creating the new internet, for that. So go ahead and build more wrappers. go ahead and build more orchestrators, but then eventually go ahead and build more of this agent ops companies. Okay, that's where the value is. Go ahead, Upasna.
So you're a man on a mission and with a vision. If every human is going to have an AI agent, how will our daily life would look like, and how fast that future is coming?
Okay, the question was, if every one of us had our own AI agent, what does our life look like? I have a teenage daughter, and the whole reason I started this project is, my conversation with her lasts only about 30 seconds. I know you have a teenage son as well. Correct. And I said, wouldn't it be great if this constant friction, if my agent can just go talk to my daughter's agent, and they fight it out, and they come back with an answer, something like, hey, if you get an A this year, we can go to your trip to Italy that you have been asking for, right? And we can have a very peaceful relationship, with my daughter. So I hope, some of those use cases will actually be solved. And I mean, if you think about our digital life today, I wake up in the morning, I spend a couple of hours dealing with my email and sending information, So our knowledge economy-based life is very much involved with email and information exchange, which is kind of not the best use of our time. I think the agents are in the beginning going to behave more like an assistant, but very quickly they'll start behaving like our co-CEO. They're taking a lot of decisions on our behalf. So our digital life will be impacted in the beginning very quickly. But again, the internet of this AI agents, which is my agent, goes and talks to Praveen's agents and goes talks to Upasna's agents and gets a lot of things done. But more importantly, it goes and talks to agents it has never known before and creates, for example, a network of 1,000 personal agents who say, hey, you all want to buy the Nike shoe. I'm going to create a new Groupon, and can you give me 10% discount? And I can do some, collective bargaining, right? And so on. So I think you can see like really new use cases emerge that we cannot imagine today.
Great. Do we have time for one more? Last one.
Okay, big fan, Ramesh sir. I have a question about what you talked about, like using Aadhaar data and like your project in the Kumbh Mela as well. So basically, there's a big issue right now, which is like putting the AI to the consumer because of the security and robustness as well. So what benchmarks, like because I know that there's not a lot of benchmarks. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to benchmark the AI agents so that they actually don't break their character and do not leak data?
Yeah, this is a very good question, right? This is probably one of the most important question. Like, what does it mean to have a driver's equivalent of a driver's license for an agent? Like, when do we say it's okay for your agent to go out there?
Correct.
And what does it mean for my agent go talk to a bank agent? How do I know it's really a bank and not some scamster, and so on? So Praveen, I mean, this is a challenge, right? Like, how do we create an internet of AI agents? Because there'll always be scammy agents that are out there. So this is a massive opportunity. And as I said, it's one thing to regulate websites or regulate social media where you can see the text. And agents is this, very opaque entity. You learn about it only after you interact with it. And I think that's where creating a national backbone for agents is critical, where you have, highly regulated agents that are deployed by the government. Next level agents are deployed by, corporations and entities that have been approved. There's a third level where the citizen agents are anchored with Aadhaar or some other way of KYC. And then you have level 4, which is like, an open agent saying, hey, I'm an IPL agent, I'll tell you interesting things about the cricket match or something like that, which are not regulated. So creating that hierarchy is going to be very, very critical. And I think startups are going to play a big role in thinking about all the potential, downsides and upsides in this.
Great. Thank you, Ramesh.
Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks to our guest for coming all the way and sharing his brilliant insights with us.